Love it when we start with Shag Tools. Gets me all excited when we hear that music.
I know,
Well,
get you
that's
all
a quick
pumped up.
word from one of our sponsors, Shag Tools. Go give them some love today, guys. Show support for the Huddle by doing so. And remember, Huddle 10. That's your promo code to get 10% off your next purchase. So give them some love. Shagtools.com. What's up, fellas?
Well, brother, can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Want to welcome everybody back and remind you we are your weekly playbook to keep forward progress going in your career. Simply put, we're here to help you win. Today's episode, number 10 of the Blue Collar Cruise. So these are the episodes where we kind of scour the interwebs to find relevant and interesting topics in the world of construction. We share them with you guys, kind of try to get some feedback and interaction going, and give our opinions where for whatever they're worth. So
Just a couple cents.
yeah, just a couple cents. That's about all I got anyhow. Jose's on the road. Daniel's in studio. I missed you guys last week. Tell me how it went.
Yeah, but
Tell
you
me how
were
you
doing some
guys.
awesome fishing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I went to far northern Saskatchewan, and a buddy of mine has a lodge up there that is just one of a kind. If you ever get a chance to go, it's Ena Lake Lodge, and it's pretty special. Very remote and nice to get away for a little bit. I thank you guys for everything you do and covering everything and being so awesome.
Yeah, it
I
was a good
heard that
one.
I can quit now, so that's good news.
No, it was nice having Sonny and Scott on last week, even though you couldn't make it. Still had some good conversation, and I mean, we covered a lot of ground last week just on kind of what's going on over there, the changes, and then what Scott's going on with just the school that he has, which is sounds like it's doing amazing, and we need to keep it that way. Got to keep on training these people.
Yeah, it sounded like from some previous conversations he was doing quite a bit of training. At the time, I think it was more focused on the inspector stuff, but I would imagine with the new stuff that he is probably in his new role going to be doing maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
What's
that's
up,
pretty exciting.
Georgie?
What up, Jorge? All right, guys. So today, like I said, is the 10th episode. The 10th, so that's 10 months. We do one of these episodes a month. So this is our 10th month of doing the Blue Collar Cruise. What I really would like to ask of the audience is if you like the stuff we're finding, there's literally thousands and thousands of episodes or articles on the internet about construction, and so we try to find the ones that I don't know are kind of cool to talk about. However, if you give us some suggestions, we can get on finding more episodes that focus on one aspect that you'd like to hear more of than another, or whatever. Today's is going to be pretty wide variety, so that's why I bring this up ahead of time. Is if one of these resonate more with you than another, or the type of content, please reach out, let us know. That being said, let's jump into, let's see, which one do we want to jump on?
I'm gonna be pulling over here in
You
a
know,
second so I can open up that those articles too and go from with it with you
yeah.
guys. Don't want to do it when I'm
So,
driving. I'll be honest. I'm a little scared to do that.
yeah, let's not do that because we're going to start off with a safety article. So, we can't have you, you know,
Of course.
doing something unsafe during a safety article. So what this article is talking, starts with the question. It says, can safer job sites improve mental health in the construction field? I think that's a little bit of a deep subject, but the summary of this is essentially goes as follows. Uh, we rank second in the U.S. Industries for suicide rates. So second, construction is,
Yeah.
and it accounts for 1 in 5 workplace fatalities. The article highlights how improved site safety through site specific plans, smart PPE, reliable communication, financial projections or protections and projections probably, and regular inspections can reduce anxiety, stress, and long-term psychological strain on workers. Emphasizing safety is not only prevents accidents, but also positively impacts the mental health by building trust and clarity for laborers. What do you guys got on this?
I
I'm
mean,
calling
if you,
BS.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I think that there's a lot of things, but workplace. I've been around a lot of guys that are, in my career that are having difficult times or difficult situations in their lives, and I have yet to have one be like, man, that the work site is just so unsafe. I'm just full of anxiety and full of like stress because they don't have cones in the proper place. You
I
know, I
guess it might be what role are you playing in that project site, right? And then are you in a role where you know there's some unsafe circumstances and you're having to address them and you're just waiting for something to go
maybe
bad?
maybe I'm just naive, dude, and there's tons of people out there like, I know that you're going to be hanging off the side of a 7-story building putting up this tile without a harness, but we
Right.
need you to do it. I don't see that.
Yeah,
What I see affects people in our trades mental health the most is uh, financial and relationships. We drive them
oh
hard,
yeah.
and people travel a lot because when, at least in the commercial world, if you get to a certain size and you're almost out, start to outgrow your area, or and that may not always be the case, but if you start to outgrow your area, you kind of travel around to continue your growth. You grow geographically. Another thing is sometimes you'll just impress an owner or a general contractor so much they want you to travel with them, but that means your people have to travel. And I find that, along with, causes the family strain, as well as the long work hours in general that a lot of times the construction trades have to do. They have to put in, and it's not only. I don't want to portray it as though they have to do it to make a living. That's not the case. Most of them make a pretty damn good living, um, but it's just the demands of the workforce. We have so few people for the amount of work that needs to be done, that the people that are there get put in a fair amount of hours, and that's hours away from family, and them financial stresses, which we've had financial episodes on here before. But those are the two big things I see. I don't know. I want to get your guys' opinion, but I don't see people
Well,
coming up to me
first,
like, man, I'm super stressed about the job site conditions.
right. First, Rollins says, "Are they counting on how many times we want to kill the other trades?"
I love
Oh,
it. Thank you for that comment, Roland. That, yeah. Well,
I think with the flooring or construction in general, right? It's that it's so much time because you always have to travel to the job site too. So it doesn't matter if you only work 8 hours that day. Sometimes you're 8 hours, but it's traveling there for an hour, working 8 hours, traveling back for an hour, and then that doesn't account for construction traffic and stuff like that, which is we live in Michigan. There's two seasons, it's winter and construction. So that's all you
yeah.
get.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. You may put in 8 hours,
Um,
but you still got 10 hours away from the family. You're not going to a factory and going to the same place every day where you can move closer to your job and it make a difference. We got guys that work here that live 30 minutes away, and sometimes that's a massive blessing if there's a job over in that side
Right.
of the state, and sometimes it's a massive headache because it's closer to us, the home office, or even out western Kansas or something. Yeah, that's a very good point.
what about you said you live in Michigan, Daniel. What about 6 months of winter, the 6 months of summer, kind of where wanting to be at work longer days is seasonal. In the winter, people kind of don't care. Work longer hours, get more hours. In the summer, everybody wants to be outside. They have things they got to do. So the longer hours in the summer are hard to avoid, almost impossible. But I think the stress levels might be a little bit higher because less free time in the summer. And then maybe elevated stress levels in the winter because less
Yeah,
work.
less work, and you're trying to get as many hours in. And then in the summertime, you don't want to work because you want to be out enjoying it, but you can't because you have so much work on your hands. It's like,
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm every year. Like work slows down and it's winter. Work
Yeah, I
speeds
wonder.
up and it's summer. And yeah, that's like the perfect storm every single year happening twice.
I wonder if those statistics. I wonder what geographically where the majority of that is.
Well,
Is it in the warmer climate? Is it in the
this just
colder
this just
climate?
puts construction ranking number 2 among all US industries for suicide rates.
Man,
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
and that could
but
be l- just speaking about the flooring industry in general, that could be kind of loosely put in there because um have seen a lot of addicts in the flooring industry, right? And are they talking like is an overdose a suicide?
well, probably not an accidental overdose, but I mean, a lot of times, and I speak as a family member uh, to a major addict, and a lot of times it drives you into a deep dark place where that seems like the best
The
option, which
only option.
obviously it never is. And we've had mental health episodes on here before where we encourage you to reach out to a friend. Hell, call us if nothing else. Call a stranger. If you just watch this show, call us and reach out. Um, message
Yeah,
me on Facebook personally. I will call you back.
like it was a
I
few
mean,
episodes ago when I was talking about Simon Sinek when he was, said that a friend reached out and they didn't say, "Hey, I need to talk." It was, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then you just nothing, you just keep on going about it. And it's like, "Why didn't you reach out to me?" "Oh, I did." And then sure enough, they did. And it's like that's why they came up with the saying, all it takes is 8 minutes. So hey, you have 8 minutes
yeah.
and eight.
yeah, that's and when it's someone you care about, you love, and you talk with all the time, right? It might be a little bit easier to pick up on some of that, but I think it's anyone who's in a situation like that where they just need someone to talk to. It's going to be hard to say exactly what the issue is.
Well, and it's hard to reach out to people because you also um, I suspect, and you know uh, reading into some of the things that I've experienced, a lot of times they're ashamed, and reaching out to the ones you loved when you feel so ashamed um, is like it's really hard to pick up the phone. So call somebody though. That's
right?
that's for
Because
sure. I
in the
guess
flooring industry, we have huge egos, so you never want to show anyone that you're hurting, but sometimes that's the only way you're gonna get that help that you need.
yeah, vulnerability is tough and that might be part of it. I mean, most of us in the construction industry, we get our hands dirty, we get down and dirty, we're kind of rough and tumble kind of folks. And having that persona around you and then picking up the phone and being vulnerable with someone is tough. There's a lot of help out there. BetterHelp is one I know of. Now, we're not sponsored by BetterHelp, so uh, I'm not endorsing them or anything. I don't use their product. I just hear them talked about a lot on other podcasts that I respect those podcasters. So, um, but I can tell you, talking to somebody's better than talking to nobody. So I guess at the end of the day, with this article, though, what do you think of the perspective that it's an unsafe work environment that's causing this? That's kind of how this is posed, is that, you know, emph- just to read this one part one more time, it says emphasizing safety not only prevents accidents, but also positively impacts mental health by building trust and clarity for laborers. And earlier on in the article, it talks about how, you know, like PPE and site specific plans um, reduce anxiety and stress. Now, if you're on a super unsafe work site, people are dropping shit everywhere, and you don't have your company doesn't, you don't have a hard hat, and like, I would understand that, but most general contractors, and maybe this is, maybe I need to change my view here, and this is more in that builder, because I look at like residential building as more of like the Wild Wild West. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's way different, man. We've done one project like that where it was a big housing unit, like duplexes, and dude, it is unsafe. Like, but
They're in a hurry.
well, just like there, guys, roofers are
They're
climbing
in a
up on
hurry.
roofs with no protection at all, and they're just jumping from one spot to the other, and there's no hard hats or safety glasses to be found.
It's not even that. It's like some of these big retail places too, where we get some out of state contractors that get the contracts, and then we're on site, and that's what you do. You're looking at someone, you're like, they're over there on a scaffold with a ladder on the scaffold, not tied off, and it's like,
That's like 10 different OSHA violations.
yeah,
That's how you get those memes about why women live longer.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's even the
You know
women on the
what?
job sites. You never see
I'll
them
go,
doing stuff like that. They're always by the book.
They're much smarter than we
and
are.
it's always someone who physically shouldn't be trying that too, right? Like me. Um, you know what? I want to add to what you're saying on there. I personally never felt unsafe on a job site because of safety. Anytime I've ever felt unsafe, it might have been uh, time of working, right? And that's about it. Maybe just unfamiliar with the area, not knowing really where I'm at. That's about it. But never anything with safety.
Well,
But maybe that's
I've
more.
seen unsafe work practices or stuff that I'm like, whoa, but I've never gained anxiety that would lead to any
Yeah,
mental issues.
No,
But
but maybe they're talking about in the younger generation too, because they're riddled kind of with anxiety, and it's like, um again, not maybe talk to someone, because that just seems to me like you don't know how to handle your emotions, and then it just all builds up, and then with nowhere to go, you just kind of blow up.
yeah, if you're already predisposed to it. Yeah, Dave says only 10% of the commercial jobs I've ever done are ready when we arrive. Yeah, that's why we have to wear hard hats now. Back in the day, by the time we get to the job, there shouldn't be anything else going
Anyone
on.
there?
And why do we need hard hats and boots? And we used to fight it when I first installed, literally fight it. And, you know, I guess we probably lost that fight long term because now, all of our guys, hard hats, boots, safety glasses, the whole works, cut resistant gloves, um, which probably was always a good idea. Yeah. And Jorge says they're always behind and expect us to save the day. That's our mantra.
Yeah, and I
And
mean
when you
we're
get into flooring, you better expect it. I didn't expect it, and so I was ticked off quite a bit when that happens. Now I look at it like, how can we help our customer? Like, the GC doesn't want to be behind. He wants the electrician to have gotten done on time so that the drywall, so he could get his inspections, so that then the drywaller can drywall and the painter can paint and the flooring guy can floor.
yeah.
But
There's a GC that we're working with right now. They're using this different kind of scheduling system where it's like, and they went over it with me, right? And they're like, this person is blocked off here, so they got an entire week here, and then it kind of goes, and they were like, and then you guys in this area will have, it's going to be, you're going to be all by yourselves in this area. And then I'm like, man, that sounds great. And then we get to the job site and there's still electricians and there's still plumbers and they still have to put wall protection on. And it's like, your scheduling system ain't working. And
that's
we came
where
a
that's
week
where
after you
having
wanted
a
us to.
schedule, a pull plan. Have you ever done pull plans on jobs?
No.
So it's a kind of like a uh, how do they say it? Agile planning. So they have this overall planning. I think Jorge, you love retail residential, but overall planning um, schedule, and then they get all the trades that are in that week, and they literally say, okay, how many can you get this done in a week? And you're like, no, I can't. I need 9 days, and they're like, okay, plus 4 or plus 3, whatever, and they put that on there, and they start moving it around, and they have some flexibility in their schedule, so
Yeah.
it's not just like this drop dead date is what. And so there's a lot of pull planning. In fact, like on Chick-fil-A, the corporate requires the GC to do pull planning, or highly recommends it, let me say.
Yeah. And the GCs that we've been working with have been doing something like that, right? They'll have, weekly meetings and it's like, where are you at? Are you behind? Are you on schedule? How much more time you need? And then everyone's sitting there. So you're like, yeah, you guys can't get in there until, I'm done. So I'm going to need an additional 2 days.
Hmm. Yeah, some flexibility in the schedule, I think, is what that brings. But Dave also said, I got to bring this up, night work in the inner city. I
Lock
got
your
a
vans.
story of going to Jersey to do a church about 15 years ago. And it was on Ninth and Orange. So anybody who lives in Jersey, comment. But I remember it like it was yesterday. Ninth and Orange, and it was like Dave Chappelle comedy scene about a crack,
When he
someone,
was in
little baby trying
DC,
to sell you crack. Yeah, it was just like that, dude.
little baby on the
It was,
corner.
yeah. It was nighttime, and there was little kids out, and like
There's
this, it was just insane. So yeah, I got you, Dave. I would
like,
second that.
I yelled out the window, but I locked the
Yo,
door.
what you
Yo,
doing out
baby,
there,
what are you
baby?
doing? If you
That's
haven't,
Well,
funny.
if you haven't watched Dave Chappelle, you have to.
yeah,
That's
watch that bit. So yeah, I guess there's probably some that can be done. My point is that it's probably further than just um, site safety
Yeah,
that's causing it. And I wonder if they have any statistics that show that a safer workplace lowers the suicide rate.
um,
I didn't see anything in the article. So
oh,
you talked about Gen Z and so it leads right into our next.
One more thing before we go to that, because I get emails from OSHA on a weekly basis just about employee deaths, and it's not just the construction industry, but it's crazy how many construction related deaths there are compared to everyone else. And in that article, it said, proper PPE and it says smart site clothing. And I talked to my epoxy guys about this too, because they use propane equipment, and it's like, he's like, yeah, we just went and bought the stuff so that way we don't, because the first death this year was inhalation from a concrete polisher using propane equipment in an enclosed area, and no one found him until the next day because he was to stay ahead. But yeah, it's a thing, man. Make sure you guys got some PPE going, and you're not putting yourself in these situations.
Yeah, and to build on that a little bit, I'm 100% for it, and I understand we do a dangerous job, so we need to be safe. So yeah, I agree with you. I think PPE is important. I was just one of the things I was contemplating is, are unsafe work environments driving suicide rates, or now construction deaths? It's well known. I mean, we have a dangerous job, and this construction is everything from the guy on a high line, putting new cabling on a suspension bridge, to the floor guys. So interesting stuff. So reaching Gen Z. This is a article out of Floor Covering Weekly, actually, and this talks about how it kind of gives some statistics about Gen Z's purchasing power and their home ownership. So to touch on some of that, there's like 70 million Gen Zers in U.S. that have a combined expected purchasing power, spending power of $12.6 trillion by 2030. That means the Gen Zers are going to be reaching that age, that full population of having that amount of capital at their disposal. That's freaking crazy. That one stat kind of like, whoa, puts you on notice, right? Gen Zers are coming up, baby.
50 years ago.
Can't hear you.
I would also point out, yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad. I would also point out that over the oldest Gen Zers, only 3% of them own their home, which compared to 40% of their parents at the same age. So there's this theory that, and I think it's true, that Gen Z is the first generation to not be better off than their parents, that they'll actually be worse off financially than their parents. That's pretty crazy.
It is.
Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me
now
okay
we can.
now?
Yep.
So I guess for everybody, and maybe myself too, what classifies Gen Z? What
so
between
years?
97 and 2012. If they're born between 1997 and 2012, they are Gen Zers, and it is the largest generation in history, they say, making up approximately 26% of the world's population.
Wow. So they're the spinoff from the baby boomers?
Gen X and baby boomers. So the older, the baby boomers who had children late, and Gen Xers. I've got both of my children are born in that range, so they're the Gen Zers right there.
Daniel's a tweener, I think.
Of this podcast.
I think Daniel's a tweener, isn't he?
No, I'm a millennial.
Is that what it is? Okay.
No, I'm a millennial. But my son is Gen Z, so according to this, because he was born in 2010, which I thought he was Gen Alpha.
Gen Z.
What?
He's
Yeah.
on that
Well,
on the brink right there.
so this goes on to say that this talks about how Gen Z's, that generation, shop, and it says that they are the kind of the first true digitally native, generation. So, and I think that proved that it did increase online, sales and shopping. But this says that they're increasingly wanting to get out and shop in stores, and that 2 out of 5 shopping mostly or entirely in store in 2025, compared to 1 in 3 in 2023. So, maybe it was COVID kind of aftermath, but people want, they want to get out and do
Well,
some stuff uh,
I
in
think with
person as well.
the influx of cheap Chinese goods that people were ordering and stuff like that, people stopped wanting to get that and then be like, well, I'm gonna look at the reviews and then I want to see this before I actually purchase it because
Yeah, we've all
I
gotten
got
that.
burned
We've
before.
all gotten that little gadget off of Instagram that didn't
Timu.
quite didn't quite fit that flashlight or something, that didn't quite do as well as the Instagram video short made it sound like.
Right. And
I mean, that thing broke
Jimmy
quick.
Jimmy says Jimmy says, why are Gen Z going to be worse off financially than their parents?
Um, there's a lot of theory. At least this is not in the article, or at least not that I've seen. But um, home prices increasing, inflation, and things of that nature. When only 3%, it's more of a statistic deriving that than it being data driven. So I mean, they're both data driven, but meaning it's a kind of a lagging indicator, meaning 3% in that generation own a home at that age. Let's call it 30, where Gen Gen Zers at 30, only 3% of them own a home. So home ownership is one of those metrics that are greatly influence people's happiness, security, things of this nature. And so much lower home ownership. Um, they don't have access to the same capital that their parents did, and the ability for capital risk. The risk is different, so they can't. When you were, if you think back to my dad's age, getting a home loan was like not that big of a deal, and in today's world, getting a home loan is a big deal. Everything is tracked and monitored.
Yeah.
Where back in those days, if you didn't pay your rent on time, it wasn't put on your credit rating. Well, now it is. And so, like all these little things, plus a lot of people would call it, what do they call that? Predatory lending, where they get credit cards and things they really can't afford, and they
Right.
drive up
And
the cost, and then
I
they're
think
so a lot of,
it's
I think
more
it's that
vehicle
whole
loans
ball of
than
wax.
anything. Like them vehicle loans where, I've you see somebody post
Dude.
some stuff sometimes where they take a shot and it's like, 50% percentage on the actual loan and it's like, dude, you're going to be paying this car off forever.
Yeah, well,
Good point.
here's an interesting thing. So I just got back from fishing. I was in Canada, like very remote area, and I went with a buddy, and he brought his dad. This guy's works on old cars, and he starts talking about the prices, like really, our elders will do sometimes, talking about uh 39-cent gas and all these things. Well, then he
Dude.
starts talking about like um car ownership. Now I'm 49 years old, and I can remember when gas was 79 cents. So, like,
Same.
gas costs, all the costs of living are significantly higher. But he talked about being able to buy a car for $3,500 in the 70s. Well, you fast forward, 45,
Man,
50 years, and it's you can't buy a car today, a new car for less than 50. Well, you can buy some.
I'd
I
say
mean, you
30.
can't buy
30,000.
30.
yeah.
30 is probably a good
The
number.
Kia, get a Kia,
With the
get a Kia.
vast majority of the cars that you really want, because
Well,
his
I mean,
$2,500 example or $2,800 example was a Camaro, you know,
yeah.
a
But even
nice,
thinking about a used car for a first car, because for, a teenager, even when I was in high school, it'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go buy this car for $500, do a couple of things to it, and drive it for a couple years. Now it's like if you're not
Yep.
spending 5, 10 grand, you're not getting a car that even runs.
yeah. You can't get a
Roller. You gotta
bicycle
get a
for
roller.
$500. I bought my first car for $500. That's funny, but you can't. I mean, that's what a good bicycle costs today. So it's like pretty nuts when you start thinking about it, and that's where I think, to kind of bring that full circle to Jimmy's question, I think that's where it's the main uh, uh, result of that study, or the main like opinion that Gen Zers are not
I wonder.
as financially successful as their parents.
I wonder that dollar amount. I wonder how much of that is debt that is owed, right? Like, are they using, is some of that debt that is owed that is getting like put back into the system somehow? And how much of that is because of the education system as far as them being in trouble? Uh,
Well,
I think it just means like their buying power altogether. That means their credit worthiness and all that. It's everything. That's how much
yeah,
they're
and
looking at spending. And Ashlyn is on here too. She says that Gen Z is the first generation to not put societal timeline pressure on things like marriage, home ownership, and kids. Likely because all the reasons you name, but knocking things off pedestals because they aren't accessible. And so I think sometimes they aren't accessible. Going back to the first thing we talked about, and they don't stay at jobs when they don't feel safe or they don't like something. So jumping from job to job also has kind of takes away from them being able to purchase a home, because these
well,
lenders are going to
yeah.
be like, dude, you haven't had a job that you've stayed at for more than 6 months. How am I going to trust you with this
well, and Jimmy
loan?
talked about getting on his soapbox. I'm going to jump on one for a second. I mean, the fact is that these things are the things that, as a human, you feel are biologically built into you for the one of the greatest human needs, security. We all have this need for security in some level. Some of us have that as a higher need in our in our lives, and some it's a little lower. But security. Well, when you don't own your home, when you sw- go, you don't keep a job for more than 3 years. When those you don't that security is not there, that is part of what they say is driving the anxiety in that generation. You don't have a home, you don't have the same job, you don't have a stable, secure system. And I think Ashton said that essentially, I'm paraphrasing they've knocked those things like marriage and kids and home ownership off the pedestal because it's not accessible. Um, well, that doesn't mean they don't want it, and it also doesn't mean that they wouldn't be mentally better off with those things. So that's a deep rabbit hole of thought. But at the end of the day, I believe that you know that Gen Z is a very smart group as well. But I want to bring up that the college, pushing to college, that we've talked about on this podcast before, and all of that major societal push to go to college, and you got to go to college. I almost forced my kids into college because I was like, yeah, you got to go to college, and neither one of them liked it. Neither one of them really liked college. But at the end of that, when you start to see when kids are going into debt, and I'm not saying this is the case for my children, but when kids go into, $100,000 $200,000 of debt for college, then this other stuff that, a $30,000 car, or this, fiv, uh, kind of loose spending, frivolous, is that the right word?
Well,
Spending is doesn't seem as bad, whereas their parents, pinched pennies. Now that may not be the best way to live either, so that's always up for
no,
debate. But
and
that
I just
is,
think in today with everything being based on subscriptions, subscription for this, subscription for that, and then you don't realize at the end of the month you got X amount of dollars in just subscription. Man, it
yeah, I
just
hate
eats into the budget.
subscriptions. Yeah, everything's a subscription anymore.
That
Well,
sounds
it
good
goes
for
on to say
life.
that they prioritize authenticity, trust, and sustainability as and identity. Uh, Brands that align with their personal values, they're more likely to earn their business. And Gen Zers also will are more brand loyal. Where I think the article doesn't say this, but I think, I remember my dad, he didn't care what brand of car he drove or what brand of clothes he wore. It was all cost driven. Whereas Gen Zers are more brand driven. If they'll gravitate to the brands that stand for what they stand for.
Yeah, I think my mom's the same way. It's whatever's going to be cheapest, is doing the same job. That's the one I'm getting.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's an
It's
older person's way. Boomers and Gen Xers. It goes on to say that these, driving the loyalty of these, the lo- driving these loyal but fickle, I like that word, fickle customers to a store or a brand is not easy. But if it's authentic, it will pay off. So, they purchase more, essentially purchase more off of an emotional attachment to the brand and what that brand stands for, more so than they do the cost.
because of good marketing.
Well,
Yeah.
because it's, and that's what it is. It's social media. They see it on social media. I see it with my kids all the time. Hey, I seen this. I want this. I mean, that's what it's all about these days.
Yeah. Yeah, Dad, can I enter into this raffle? It only costs $10. They're only letting 50,000 people in, but I can win $400. Can I buy 10 tickets? Like,
Well, and they also have something we never really had to deal with, or certainly not as much, which is, online influencers. So this goes into some stats here. So Gen X or Gen Z, sorry, department store shoppers, 20% shop in store but buy online, while 31% buy online and return in store. That's
man,
pretty
I,
interesting.
I do both. Is that okay?
Well, you're Gen Zer at heart, it looks like, because that's basically what that's saying is they shop in store, but then they go home and buy it online. Oh, I'll find it on Amazon kind of thing.
Yep.
Well,
But then there's 31% that buy online and return in store. So they go in store as well. They like the in store experience, which I talked about it a little bit earlier. So 17% prefer to shop at retailers that are innovative. 26% use influencer recommendations. That's over 1/4 of all shopping by Gen Z is influenced by influencer recommendations. So that shows you why Kylie Jenner's a billionaire.
Influence, man. It's crazy these days.
uh,
And
you know, if you see somebody that you like and something, and they're like, look at this right here. Like, what's those little dumb furry things, fuzzy things that everybody is trying
La
to get
Boo
now?
Boo.
Because, yeah, whatever. Oh my God, dude. Like my daughter grabbed one, and she's my daughter. My youngest got braces. She put diamonds on all their teeth. She said, "Dad, now it's got braces like me." I'm like,
She ruined the Labubu.
like,
They
what is
retail
this
for
thing? They're so
$30 and
ugly.
people are selling them for $95.
Oh, we get ours for cheap. They're fake. They're not
Oh
Labubus. They're
yeah,
Labobos.
that's my daughter had some and someone at school told her that one's not real. It's what do you call them?
Labobo.
No, I think it's a
I don't know. I
lafufu
didn't
or something like that.
Lafu.
Well, reaching on in and really kind of driving right down that same thing is the next article that says TikTok influencers raise awareness for the skilled trades. So this is kind of using, uh, the skilled trades are starting. I wouldn't say starting; they're doing really well. You guys are one of them. They use um, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook really well and bring awareness to the skilled trades. Mike Rowe talks about this all the time. Um, but this says while TikTok may be best associated with the latest dance crazes, the social platform has more than 1.5 billion monthly users and could boon in helping the construction industry find its next generation of skilled laborers. In fact, many in construction are using the platform to provide younger generation with the informative perspective on careers in the industry and using influencers to help with recruiting. So even this, like labor is being driven a bit by what influencers and in the construction world. So
And
Got to make it
I think,
attractive.
well, I think a lot of it with that is they're like, well, they can be an influencer while doing this. I can be an influencer while doing this. And they don't understand how much work it takes to actually put the videos together, edit them, and then release
yeah.
them. And then by the time, they realize that, they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So it's,
I will
Well,
say
it
the
says it's
younger,
inspiring many to consider the construction field as a viable and rewarding profession. I think some of that does help by destigmatizing being in construction as you got to be it didn't used to be this way, but then it got this way where you were looked at like second class or something for being in the skilled trades. But many women, as well as the influencers, there's a lot. I mean, we all know there's a lot more women on construction sites these days than there used to be.
yep,
yeah.
is very much appreciated for sure. Attention to
Amen.
detail and just it evens everything out. I want to touch base on what you said, that back in the day it used to be viewed differently, right? And I do remember early on in my career, people would say, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm doing floors. I'm in construction." "Oh, you are?" "Yeah." "Like, what are you doing? You're a full time student? Like, what are you doing, bro?" Like, um, and it was because I was always dirty, right? You're always dirty when you're in construction, depending on what you're doing, and that's what they took it at. They took it as face value, like that was your value, that was your worth. Now you show up a little bit dirty, and there people respect it a little bit more. Like that's someone who understands what it takes to earn a living, and it's much appreciated for the change in the viewpoints.
Yeah. Doyle
Yeah, one
says,
popular TikToker who is a woman, Chelsea Fenton, is specifically states in the article that if you can make yourself relatable, you will attract people, she says. A lot of people really don't know that these are careers that you can do without being $100,000 in debt. My most successful video was just me talking about how much I made, how I bought a house at 27, and showing them the positives.
yeah. And Doyle hits it, the nail on the head right here. He says tradesmen today have to develop their own brand just like a business does. becoming
Yes.
more personal. And that's
Amen.
what it is about the influencers. That's what you have to
That's
do. You
worth
have to build your
another
own brand.
that's
Pop it
worth
up in your
another show. That is maybe one of the better comments I've ever seen on the
Yep.
Huddle. That is
Yep.
a great piece of advice for everybody. Doyle, thank you for that comment. Um, you are your brand. Like a lot of personal development people have been teaching this for maybe close to a decade now, but it talks about when you are providing a service, you are the brand. You are your brand. And I can't I can't stress that enough. That is a great comment.
It is too. And that goes back to when I was working before we started Preferred Flooring. The owner of the company had said something, "Well, whenever you're out on a project, you represent my company." I was like, "You're absolutely correct. I do represent your company, but I also represent myself. And you have to put trust in me because I'm not willing to put myself at risk um, to lose all of the respect in the industry that I've already earned. And I'll do a good job for you, man. I promise. I promise I will. It's my name is on the line as well."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's that
those who
personal
have
brand.
that type of thing, that
Yeah.
type of integrity, you're going to help your company and you're going to be close to indispensable if you want to be. Sounds like Doyle has been through a CFI class. Well, I know the CFI pushes that very frequent in their trainings that, branding yourself and learning how to leverage. It's one of the things we do over at Go Carrera / Trade Tap. Soon it's just going to be Trade Tap comes up into this month. But we like you are your brand. The more you stand out and the more you get to be paid, the better you're going to be compensated for your stuff. So you got to be. I like this one too.
Oh,
Oops, sorry,
we
I
popped it up
clicked
at
it
the
off
same
there.
time.
You got to be real with yourself. Find out who you really are, then develop your brand. Then become relatable to all different aspects of people. Good stuff. All right, we are coming close to the end already. I want to get one more topic that I'm going to skip this one and go here to
Ice cream truck.
that. Yeah, that was my alarm reminding me to do my push-ups.
Oh,
Do them.
you mean
Let's see it.
AKA take your glycerin pills?
Yeah. So this article is talking about in the UK they injected $600 million into construction training. This comes from floorinsight.com, and they talk about in this whole thing that the you know the spring ahead of today's spring statement, it says the chancellor has announced she is injecting $600 million into construction training. That is incredible, and shout out to our fellow podcasters over in the UK, Cockrell, sorry, uh, Cockrell and Co. I mean, they have a podcast. We've been on theirs, and they've been on ours. But $600 million getting injected into your specific economy of training in the flooring world. That should make like the trainers here in America like completely jealous. How in the world is the UK able to do that, and then we're over here struggling? I think
Trying to find any
from a
funds we can.
Um,
yeah, like
they want
any
they
funds
want
we
their
can to
economy
put
to
together different
flourish.
trainings.
What's their economy
Well, it
coming
says
together?
Well, they're going to have a housing boom, or at least they expect it. And it says one person says in here, it's encouraging to see the government recognizing the importance of the skilled trades in delivering the UK's housing ambitions. The construction industry has been facing significant challenges due to ongoing skill shortages, which have impacted the speed and scale at which projects can be delivered. An investment of this scale into the construction training and recruitment is not just a step in the right direction, but also a long-term commitment to the future of the industry. That's pretty freaking awesome. I thought I'd end the podcast with something like that like really shows
Just make
you
us totally jealous, right? Like,
a little jealous, but
gotta make you
also
guys sad about not living in the UK.
pretty freaking cool
That
that
is awesome.
somebody's doing something. Maybe we can go over and talk to our friends and see if they want to come over to the U.S. a little while, help us get some floors. They call it fitting over there, so a carpet fitter
Yeah.
or a tile fitter.
Yeah,
They
fitter
have
of the
better
year, not
terminology.
installer of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah. They have way
a little
better
different
terminology over there
terminology.
than we have here. It's just different. I like it.
And we're just waiting until the U.S. comes and approaches us and is like, "Here's all this money for training. Let's do it."
Yeah,
We've been
would
hoarding
be
all this
pretty
money
cool.
from you guys. We'll give it back to you.
This whole thing is that the way they look at it anyway, from the posturing of this article, is that it's equipping the next generation with the right tools, training, and opportunity to help address the critical gaps in the workforce. See, we all pushed almost in all of Western society for college degrees, and many of them people are going to the trades without the skill though, and so that's one of the gaps they're trying to fill is new workforce people going in. And I've heard you say it plenty of times, Daniel, we don't necessarily have just a labor shortage. It's a qualified labor shortage.
Yes. The
you
talent
know
pool.
yeah. All right, well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of the Huddle, featuring Shag Tools as our sponsor, and going on the cruise across the interwebs with some interesting construction topics. If you have any suggestions, please reach out to us. And it's huddle.forward progress, right?
Forward progress at the huddle.team.
I always screw that up. Sorry, guys. Forward progress at the huddle.team. There it is. I was going to read it if it
Should
was
just pop it
scrolling.
up and be like, just right here, just click on this QR
Hey,
code.
can you pop that up real quick?
Send us an email at forwardprogress at the huddle.team so that we have people that there's multiples of us that are looking at articles on articles on articles, and would love to bring the ones that interest you. We thought these were pretty interesting, pretty cool. Dave says, would be cool. Our government would only do it if someone in the government could profit from it. Well, I venture to say there's something going on in the UK that we could copy. So
Right.
I would hope that would maybe just filter over here a little bit.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
thanks for all you do for the industry, man. And
Yeah, back at you,
Doyle's-
Jimmy. Thank you, sir.
Doyle's comment right here, he's been in there for 40 years doing everything that he does. His brand is servicing people, but he backs it up with education. And, you get to put a face to the trade. And he just says confidence and faith in what you do. And that's what people need. You need that confidence. And don't, like he was saying, before you'd tell people I'm a flooring installer and they'd look at you a certain way. But if you have that confidence, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like, I install floors, man. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Hey,
man. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Thanks, Jorge. Thanks everybody for your comments. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, please, as well as follow us on Facebook and Instagram, all the social media sites. You can catch this podcast later on YouTube. You can also catch it at many of the podcast sites. I know that we're on Spotify and Apple.
Spotify and Apple are the two biggest ones. I mean, if you're not using those platforms, then
YouTube.
Maybe switch it. I don't know.
I think Google also has podcasting that I believe you could catch it on there as well. So
and they just switched a
Where-
bunch of stuff with that within the last year, where it used to be like its own platform, and now it's mixed in with YouTube. So like when we release a podcast, it gets released in video form, and then when we put it on the other platforms, it gets audio
Yeah.
only. It's weird. I don't know what they did.
Well, you guys keep joining us every Tuesday at 3:00. We certainly appreciate it. And we will catch you guys next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Joey wants to see the Gladden boys on. Phil was on a few weeks ago.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again.
Get both of them on. All right, guys, take it easy.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good one.